Hello, welcome back or welcome. Recently, I've been intrigued with this idea of a more lived-in style. And I don't know if it came from learning about the wabi-sabi philosophy of the Japanese culture and sort of the whole transient nature of aesthetics. Or maybe it was the TikTok post that I saved a while ago about how truly stylish people rarely have anything to do with fashion, and they're the type of people that just kind of live life doing what they love, whatever it is. The next thing I know, I'm reading multiple blog posts with titles like "Style is a reflection of a life well lived," and I'm browsing through the comment section in Reddit on tips for a more lived-in wardrobe. And I think the name kind of speaks for itself, right? In order for you to have a more lived-in style, you need to go out there and live your life in the clothes that you love. Simple. End of story. But just for fun, I thought I'd ask ChatGPT what it thinks, and it gave me 10 tips on how to achieve a more lived-in style, most of which were pretty obvious, like I said. And some of the details for these tips I thought were pretty off point, but a lot of the tips were also very valid. So let's talk about them, and I'll share my take on these tips based on my experiences or based on something that I think I can incorporate into my current life. So the first tip is lean into imperfection. Embrace slightly worn, faded, or distressed pieces. The goal isn't messy, it's character. These textures signal youth, history, and ease. So my take on this when it comes to my style and leaning into that imperfection is with my hair. I genuinely hate styling my own hair or styling anyone else's hair for that matter. And it's really ironic because I talk about hair so much on this channel, and it has kind of been detrimental to when I was trying to grow my career as a makeup artist, because I felt like I needed to rule out certain industries immediately, like weddings, for example, because you kind of need to know how to style hair even if you are a makeup artist. But the truth is, I hate styling hair. I've always said I don't have patience for hair. And I think what I don't like about it is that sense of polished perfection. I feel like once I start styling my hair, the more I touch it, the more I get fixated on perfecting every little detail. Like I need to fix a gap here, I need to fix a little bump here, there's too much flyaway, yada yada yada. And I just feel like the end product just never looks as good as when I just leave my hair alone. As you've seen in many of my videos, I just let my hair down and I don't really do much with it. I'd rather rely on a good haircut or styles that look intentionally messy, because like ChatGPT said, it's not messy, it's character. So I just feel like I've gotten comfortable with letting go and just letting my hair be the way it is. Another area where I think I can embrace this attitude of leaning into imperfection is just putting outfits together in general. Like I don't need to nail every single outfit. Like they don't need to be a 10 out of 10 every single day. I've just been trying to get into the habit of, if I find something that's bothersome throughout the day about my outfit, then I'll just take that as an inspiration to do something slightly differently the next time I put together a similar getup. And then the second tip that ChatGPT gave me is add personal touches to basics. Customize your items subtly, roll the sleeves, add pins or patches, sew a hidden tag with your name or a word that matters to you, layer vintage accessories, heirlooms, or thrift finds that carry stories. I think this is a really good tip. I mean, I don't know about sewing my name onto garments, but I definitely do like the idea of having some sort of a sentimental value and a personal story behind specific pieces of garments. I have this graphic tee that I've used in many of my styling videos. It used to be a long sleeve, but I cut off the sleeves and turned it into a muscle tee because I hated the fit of the long sleeve. But the reason why I got this shirt, despite the fit being terrible, was because of the artwork. And because this artwork, which I know it kind of sounds weird, but it reminds me of my childhood. So I think this was like grade 4 or grade 5. There was a story on the internet that went viral with all of my classmates. Everybody read about it, and it was obviously a fictional story. It was about this girl killing her boyfriend who cheated on her and eating her body parts. Very disturbing. Probably should not have been exposed to this type of story when I was that young, but I mean, we were. That's the truth, is everybody in the class knew about this story. So this artwork that seems gruesome and twisted for most people is actually very personal to me because it reminds me of the time that I spent in Korea. I mean, I've lived here for so long that I forget that I spent my formative years in a completely different country, speaking a different language, in a very different culture. And this is just a nice reminder of that in a kind of weird way. On a more lighthearted note, I also recently got these shoelaces that I can customize my sneakers with. And I think this is such a great and economical way of adding a personal touch to your outfit and just adding something that will lift your mood a little bit. The next tip, the third tip, says prioritize comfort without compromising style. It says a lived-in look is worn like second skin. Think relaxed tailoring, slouchy silhouettes, broken-in fabric like linen, cotton, wash denim, and soft knits. Style it intentionally. Pair comfort with sharpness. So my take on this tip for prioritizing comfort without compromising style is I recently picked up dance as a hobby again. I used to dance throughout high school and university just for fun, mostly like hip hop, K-pop, that kind of stuff. And I picked it back up again last year. So it's been almost a year since I've been going to dance classes. So when I first started going to these classes last year, I would just throw on whatever workout clothes I have at home. So like stretched out t-shirts, some comfy sweats that aren't necessarily the most stylish. But then I started noticing how other people dress to class, and especially how instructors dress to class, because obviously they're teaching the class, they are down to dance and they're comfortable, but they're always stylish. So I feel like that's been really influencing how I dress as well, especially on days that I know I'm going to a dance class right after work. I'll try to look for inspo from street style, and I'll always try to think of like, what is that coolness factor that I can add to my wardrobe, like how dancers naturally have that. And I think it actually helps me be a better dancer because I feel more confident in my outfit. I like the way my body moves in these outfits. And I feel like it just gives me that attitude to be a better dancer. So that's my recent experience with prioritizing comfort without compromising style. I really like the fact that I can take something that I really enjoy, like dance, and get inspiration from it to incorporate that into my personal style. All right, the next tip is wear things often and let them age with you. Repetition creates identity. Let people associate you with certain boots, coats, or jewelry. Over time, these items mold to your body and become part of your visual story. So as soon as I read this tip, I ran over to my closet to find the oldest item in my closet. And it was a little bit embarrassing to find that not many of my items are more than 5 years old. I definitely have a few pieces that are like 7, 8 years old. Some are over 10 years old, but most of them are under 5 years old. So the oldest item that I have in my closet is this shirt from Forever 21. I probably got it when I was 21 or younger. So it's the oldest item in my closet right now. And I thought it was interesting how I don't really wear this item out anymore. Like I just wear it at home as loungewear. But I definitely have replaced this item with very similar versions of like a gray graphic tee. So I thought it was just funny to see the consistency in taste level regardless of how much time has passed. I do also really like the idea of having a more consistent jewelry theme. I think there's such a strong association to personal style when it comes to jewelry because, I don't know, it's just, I feel like it's the most personal part of your style is your jewelry. And I've definitely noticed how styling myself with more personalized jewelry can definitely make an outfit feel from like a meh to yay. The next tip, tip number 5, says curate a color palette that feels like you. Earth tones, muted colors, and warm neutrals tend to enhance a lived-in look. Avoid overly trendy color combos unless they feel deeply you. I'm not a fan of this focus on creating a more lived-in look, because earth tones and muted colors can literally be some people's worst colors. So I wouldn't just pick these colors just because you're trying to create a more lived in look of a style. So my take on this tip is I think there's definitely colors that speak to me, like the color black, for example. I don't think that I could ever let go of black from my closet, regardless of what my color season is. I mean, I'm lucky that I am in a deep season and black still looks okay on me. But even if I were in a light summer or a soft autumn or something, I don't think I'd ever be able to let go of black because I love it so much. And if I love it, then I'm gonna wear it more, which is gonna create that lived in effect. I'm also noticing that there's more color combinations that are trending these days. I feel like I see more stylists suggesting wear this and this color together, like that type of content. So I like that it makes it easier for me to find combos that actually work for my wardrobe. For example, Mocha Mousse is the Pantone color of 2025, and brown is such a staple in my wardrobe that I'm finding so many different ideas of how to wear brown with different colors like blue or pink. So I'm happy that it allows me to work with what I already have, and I can also skip on certain color combos that are not really me, like butter yellow and brown, for example. I think they look great together, but I just don't see myself rocking butter yellow anytime soon. And then tip number 6 says, style around mood and memory, not trends. Build outfits around how you feel or want to feel. Ask yourself, what's the story I want to tell today? So I have a funny story to share about this one. Last year, I created a styling video with items that I never wear. And I came up with this outfit. I'll pop it on the screen for you so you can see. It was with this like black long maxi dress that I have with a black sweatshirt over top, red socks, and a pair of sneakers. So I decided to wear this outfit one day, and coincidentally, I was on my period. And my husband, as soon as he looked at me, said, wow, you're like really dressing for your mood today. So I thought it was kind of funny that that's the first thing he noticed. I didn't even think to make that connection, but in hindsight, it made so much sense. So I just like having these little stories attached to certain outfits. It definitely creates that feeling of nostalgia. And now every time I throw on this outfit or something similar, I'm always gonna think about this instant that my husband made a comment about. I just think it's always nice to have some sort of a visual component to a memory because it just changes your mood in an uplifting way. Now the next tip says, layer with intent. Combine old and new, structured and soft, classic and oddball. Add a worn leather jacket over a delicate dress. Pair a vintage band tee with tailored trousers. This kind of contrast creates visual history. So I feel like what this tip is saying is to add juxtaposition to your outfit. And I don't know, it feels a little bit too generic for the context, but I do like the storytelling aspect of adding something vintage to your outfit. On the note of juxtaposition, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I'm starting to feel like contrast as a style tip is a bit overused. It feels a bit redundant. For example, in the comment section, I see something like, if you're wearing oversized bottoms, then you need to offset that with a slimmer top and vice versa. But why not oversized on oversized? Or why not slim on slim? I think that both can still look fine depending on what your preference is. Like the fact that I'm starting to feel like contrast itself is feeling a bit contrived and redundant probably goes to show that the tip is overused. And like I said, I think you can create perfectly good outfits with slim on slim or oversized on oversized silhouettes. You just have to find the right balance that works for you personally. Me, for example, I am trying to find that personal balance between an oversized top and an oversized bottom these days because, like I said, I am being influenced more by dance in how I choose to dress myself these days. And I'm realizing that all I really need is like a touch of skin. I don't need to wear a form-fitting top to compensate for anything. I can still work with a boxy top, but I might opt for a t-shirt instead of a full long sleeve, or I might opt with something with a deeper scoop neck to show a bit of my neckline. Like I'm finding that that's all I really need. I don't necessarily need to do a slim versus oversized silhouette to offset each other, but that's the balance that works for me. it doesn't necessarily mean that it would work for you. So with this tip, layering with intent and creating contrast, I don't know if I really like it. I feel like it feels a bit generic and overdone. And then the next tip, tip number 8, says, make style a daily habit, not a performance. Don't save your cool pieces for special occasions. Wear them into everyday life. Cook in your nightshirt. Walk the dog in your favorite shoes. Live in your wardrobe. I actually just experienced this yesterday. So my husband and I were taking the day off together, and I had dressed for what we had initially made plans for us was just to walk around, but it would be like on a paved road. So I wore my mesh flats, and then we made last minute changes to our plan, and we ended up walking along the water down this unpaved gravel path for like over an hour. And at first I felt a little bit self-conscious, like everyone else was wearing running shoes or really comfortable sandals, and I felt like people were looking at what I was wearing, and I worried about whether my shoes were going to get ruined. But then I realized that I'm actually quite comfortable walking in these shoes on this unpaved path. Like I had no problems with it. And then it made me think, okay, well, if I'm comfortable physically, then why am I worried about all of these other like external things that actually don't matter? Like who cares if people think I'm not dressed for this path, or who cares if my shoes get scuffed a bit? That's what they're for. So I've actually started a 90-day style challenge recently where the goal is for me to get dressed every day and document my outfits. So I downloaded the Index app to catalog my entire wardrobe, and I'm documenting my outfits on a daily basis right now. And one of the rules that I set for myself during this challenge is to stop separating occasional versus regular day pieces. We obviously love shopping for our fantasy self, so why not let ourselves dress for the fantasy self a little bit more? Like as long as the basic needs are covered in terms of comfort and practicality, I just don't see why I can't be wearing these nicer stuff on a regular basis. So that's one of the goals for me, is to stop having such a clear division between occasional / nice attire versus regular day / shitty attire. Tip number 9 says, document and reflect. Take occasional photos of outfits you love, not to post, but to remember what felt right. Keep a journal about your clothes, what you wore on meaningful days, what items make you feel most like yourself. Okay, so my take on this is, again, with the 90-day style challenge, I am using the Index app to document my outfits every day, and I'm also posting them on TikTok just for fun. And I'm trying to bake it into my evening routine just to come up with outfit ideas for the following day to save time in the morning. And I've noticed that this actually allows me to reflect on my style more and think about like how certain items or outfits have made me feel for the day. So if you're interested, feel free to check out my TikTok on what I've posted so far and join me. And then the last tip is to slow down consumption. Avoid fast fashion churn. Buy less, choose better, and wear often. Pieces become lived in not because they're trendy, but because they've had time to develop emotional and physical patina. Okay, I think that's probably the most obvious tip. I mean, if you want a lived in style, you should probably wear them long enough. But my take on this is, again, going back to the 90-day style challenge, one of the rules I've implemented is a no buy during this period. This has actually been inspired by the 75 hard style challenge created by Mandy Lee, and I think it was a thing sometime last year. But the reason why I'm giving myself 90 days is just to account for summer plans. I have guests coming into the city. We have plans to go camping. So I know I'm not going to be able to document my outfits every single day. So I'm just giving myself 15 extra days for things like that. This challenge for me isn't necessarily for financial reasons. Like, I feel pretty financially responsible when it comes to consumption, but I did notice that I still spend a lot of time just browsing for new things, even when I'm not buying anything new. So I just wanted to waste less time doing that. And from all of my previous videos, I should know that I have more than enough clothes. So I just thought this was a good time for me to look more inwards for inspiration rather than chasing novelty. I do really like that phrase that was used, emotional patina. I think that's very poetic. And of course, slowing down consumption is going to help with developing more of that emotional attachment to the wardrobe. And then as a closing statement, it says, lived in style is soul wear, clothing that carries your essence and stories quietly and confidently. It's kind of cringe, but kind of cute. I think the reason why I'm interested in this idea of a lived-in style is because I feel like the question that I've always asked myself and I've always tried to answer through the topics that I talk about on this channel is, how do I become more stylish or better dressed or represent a better version of myself through style? But I started thinking, is that actually the best question to ask to actually develop a sense of style? I mean, there's nothing wrong with the question. Wanting to improve our appearance is nothing to be ashamed about. I just wondered if it's the most effective in terms of finding authenticity in style. So I think the more effective question could be, what is it that I want to do with better style? And that's what led me to really think about, like, how do I live in my best style? So that's sort of where my head's at. I hope you found the video interesting, and I'll see you in my next video. Until then, stay unique and stay gorgeous.